Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You are now listening to the Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zach and Zoe. Thank you for joining us as we talk about the movies of yesteryear. You can reach us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter by searching for Backlook Cinema. Check our show notes for more info, and now, let's get it in.
Hi, this is Zach.
And this is Zoe, and welcome to the Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zach and Zoe, where we take a look back at the movies of yesteryear. And what movie did we take a look at this time, Zachary?
Star Trek First Contract.
Star Trek First Contract. Oh, Contact. I said contract.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome. It's the 22nd episode. Woohoo, we did it. And we continue. And we shall continue. And anyway, the reason we started this show was to strengthen our bond. I, Zoe, and my son, Zach, watch movies that I love when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s and the early 90s. And we get Zach's impression on these great movies. So let me ask you something, Zach. Have you seen The Last Boy Scout?
No.
Have you seen The Terminator 1 or 2?
I'm pretty sure I've seen both of those.
You've seen those, okay. How about The Mask? Have you seen that one?
Yes.
Oh.
I've definitely seen The Mask. So we can watch that if you want.
No, because you've seen it already.
Oh,
that
well.
totally defeats the point.
No,
that would have to be an extra special episode. Well, we'll just watch that together. It won't be for the podcast. How about Johnny Dangerously?
No.
Okay, that's a classic. How about I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker?
No.
All right, that sounds like good. How about The Crow?
I don't know why you're asking me that. You already know I've seen that one.
You seen that? I don't remember. I forgot a lot of them. And I think you told me you seen Batman. No, you didn't.
No, I didn't see Batman 1.
1 or 2. Okay. And we're specifically talking about the what's his name? That dude that does the Frankenweenie and Edward Scissorhands. What's that director's name? I can't remember. Oh well, that guy. Tim Burton, that's his name.
Yeah.
So specifically I'm talking about the Tim Burton Batman. One of the few movies that don't have Johnny Depp in it. Because he loved him some Johnny Depp. And you said you seen Superman.
Yeah.
The Richard Donner Superman.
Uh-huh.
The one with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, I seen
where
those.
he's flying
1,
around
2,
backwards.
3, and then you had Superman Returns.
No, Superman 3, and then after that, Superman 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm shocked. I didn't know you seen Superman.
When you're at home, you have nothing to do. Sometimes it pops up.
Right. So the reason I ask him these questions is because the purpose is to watch movies that he hasn't seen before that I love. Because he's my clone. So I'm trying to get his impressions. I want to see what it's like when I was growing up. Trying to get that reach back.
Sure.
Reach back in the time. Find out. Get these early impressions from my son.
For me. That's what you need.
Well, this is my therapy. How about that?
No.
So anyway, tell him about the merch.
Yeah, you can get t-shirts, hoodies, mug, face masks, and a bunch of other items at our website, backlookcinema.com.
Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and other socials. You can find details in the show notes. And also at backlookcinema.com, you can leave us direct feedback, comments, suggestions, etc. Or you can email us at fanmail@backlookcinema.com.
And please, if you like our show, then rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast app that you might be using.
So earlier you mentioned something about watching the show.
Yeah, I watched The Invincibles.
You watched Invincible. Did you watch all 3 episodes?
Yeah, I watched all 3.
Because the way I don't know if you know how what you call it,
comic books.
No, not comic books. What's that one?
From
Amazon. It was on Amazon, right?
Yeah, it was.
So the way Amazon usually work, when they do a series, they give you the first couple of episodes, the first 3 episodes, and then they'll come out like every week.
I figured
because they want that continuous conversation. They want people they want that magic where people talk about it throughout the run.
I figured because that's what Cartoon Network does. They basically give you like the first few episodes,
right?
And then next week they do it again. It's like okay,
where it's different from like the way Netflix does it. Because Netflix, I think maybe one other, but the way Netflix does it, they give you the entire series. And you watch it all in one go, or much of it as you can.
Before they hit the delete button. Like, okay, there you go. You have fun.
Yeah, until the end of the series. So you can watch, that's where binging comes from. So, and I think they started that way because originally they didn't have any original content. They just had old shows that they would show. So the old Friends episode or old The Office episodes or whatever. And since they were putting the entire series on Netflix, people can binge those. So when they created their own shows, they continued that formula. But the newer streaming networks, they're rediscovering the beauty of putting out stuff once a week. So I've read a lot of these Invincible stories so far. What do you think of them?
Well, War Culture. I was like, ooh, War Culture has videos. And this lady was like one about 1 year ago, talking about the messed up things that happen in the comic books. And I was like, ooh.
Oh, so you're spoiling it for yourself.
Yes, you can kind of say that. They didn't really go into full details.
Right.
But, I was like, oh, okay.
What you call it? So Invincible kind of reminds me of The Boys. Did you ever see any of those?
No.
Oh, you gotta watch
But they did bring it up in the video.
Except it's way better. Well, actually, Invincible, the comic, is way better than The Boys, the comic. But as far as a television show, I think they're about even there. They're about the same level of greatness. But The Boys, the comic, was just gross just for being gross, just for the sake of being gross. But in the TV show, it's leveled up a little bit. And they're not all the way gross. And then in I think The Boys is way more sexually explicit than Invincible. So you're going to do a lot of comparison. Also, in Invincible, the heroes aren't all the way assholes like in The Boys. Like
some of them aren't. But...
In The Boys, they're barely functional human beings, but in Invincible, there are at least a few decent heroes in Invincible. So and they had a lot of shocking visual. It's almost like anime. It's anime-ish. So the what I really liked about it, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet, you should have, since we're recording this during the premiere of Invincibles, and by the time you hear this, it'll be 7 days later. So you will have watched this already. But so the shocker near the end of the first episode, when it turns out Earth's greatest hero, Omni-Man, murdered their version of the Justice League.
I was like, oh, there goes Batman, there's a Wonder Woman, there's go Martian Manhunter.
Right.
There's go The Flash. Who else was there?
Right. So there's War Woman.
Yeah, War Woman is basically Wonder Woman.
Right. And so, and they're not ashamed of their knowledge.
Oh, they're not.
Like,
see this? Yeah, she's not even from this type of timeline.
Right.
She's from a way where there's only women around. I was like,
Right.
You have, our version of Flash, who is Russian, by the way. Ha
right,
ha.
Which I like, and he's called Red Rush.
Yeah, Red Rush.
So
like, ha ha.
For a number of and I really like the explanation of his powers. Like when he was talking to his girlfriend, it's like he says when people are talking, it's like an eternity.
I'm like, wow.
It's like, so he can't really stand talking to people, but he loves her, so he loves talking to her because everything for him is accelerated. So that was it. And they give you a little taste of their personality before they get murdered.
Yeah, the one named Ghost, Green Ghost. Oh, yeah, she's a photographer. I was like, okay, that's neat.
Right.
Or War Woman is basically a real estate agent or whatever she's.
No, I think it sounded like she's in tech. Because they were talking about releasing 2.0 of something.
Yeah, for free.
Right. She wants to release it for free because she wanted to make the world better. And there's some programs that are released for free, like obviously the social media programs are released for free.
It's only free,
but it's ad supported. Right. It's free because we're the products. But there are certain operating systems like even the program we're using now to record is called Audacity. That was released for free. But that's like user generated or something like that. I can't remember how it's made. I think a bunch of programs just got together and just decided to make a software program. What's that one that there's an operating system that people like to use besides Windows and
come on, Linux?
Yeah, Linux, that's free. Also, that was really, so she wanted to do something like that. So you learn a bit about the characters, and then they creatively use their powers in order to stop Omni-Man, but he is so massively powerful that it hardly works. Like Red Rush, he's punching Omni-Man at super speed until he breaks his hands, but he's still punching him, but it doesn't work. And it's like
it was going to work, but
right. And then you see the after effects; he's just bruised all over his chest. And then And then War Woman, she bashes him with her mace, right? And it's like it's effective, but it's not enough.
Not effective. Again, it would have worked if he never grabbed the Martian off of him.
Yeah. Because he has a central part, so he grabbed that central part and he squished it. And then there was the one where what's her name? She basically made the mistake of going solid. Green. What's her name? Green Ghost.
Green Ghost. Yeah.
Right. She went solid, and then as soon as she went solid, she got hurt. So
then you have Darkwing. I was like, okay, his name is Darkwing.
Right, which is clever.
I was like, clever. So you saw, so I can see a little bit of Batman and Darkwing Duck is there because I hear the name Darkwing.
Right, and everybody was pretty cool in that.
Got grabbed by the leg. You're like, why would you jump above him? Why? I understand you're trying to be Batman, but why would you jump above him?
Well,
only to get grabbed and just pummeled into the ground.
Right. Oh, and he was an easy kill. He was just human. he was he was a soft human in a hard candy shell. And that was just the first episode, and then it's the second episode they started the love triangle, and
a weird one.
Yeah, a weird one. So yeah, all of that was pretty cool. And then it's like it got emotional when it wasn't appropriate because it's like you still feel for Invincible. By the way, I like it when before they say his name or the word.
Oh yeah, every time they show the title. Before they even say the name,
right,
it's like,
right.
You really are title screen. I'm like,
right.
Okay,
then they show the title screen. I was like, oh, that's clever. And the same guy that wrote the comic is also involved in writing and producing this show, so that's awesome. So
that would be smart to do.
Right. That's excellent input, and they largely keep in line with the story that he wrote. They kind of changed some things around, but you know what? I was surprised is that when Invincible goes out into space to fight this alien, it was funny because he's like, no, he can handle it. It's fine. He can handle it.
Oh, he can handle it.
So he fights Alan the alien. And what's funny about that is that is not a character that was created for this comic. Another thing that was strange, at least from my memory, Invincible's favorite hero is called, or his favorite comic is called Science Dog. At least I remember it being called Science Dog in the comics, but apparently on TV it's called Seance Dog. So I don't know. So I kind of wonder if that's his creation or not.
Who knows?
But Alan Alien is not his creation. It's actually a character from another comic. But I guess they worked out a deal so he can appear in this show. So
I feel like if he was in the comic, then they could possibly. Probably wanted to keep it one-on-one near the comic. Identical.
I think they want to try, but there are certain characters they can never use because this comic, Invincible, was originally part of like the original version of Image Comics. Image Comics was originally a bunch of independent comic creators, but they blended their characters into one solid universe. So you would see in Invincible, you would see other characters from other comics. So because they're part of our universe, but they can't really do that, especially with a lot like Wildstone used to be part of Image Comics. It's owned by Jim Lee, but Jim Lee sold Wildstorm to DC, and he joined DC as like an executive editor and later on president. So he still draws to DC from time to time. So he can't use any of those characters because they're DC characters now.
Yeah, again, I love how he goes to planet Earth. Talking about, oh yeah, you don't know. Yeah, this is the evaluation where I figure out if the Earth is, really gonna under protection or not. Talking about, are you sure you're at the right place? Yeah, you are. So I'm like, this is Earth.
Right.
Are you sure?
He's like, it's spelled with an E. So if the alien was at the wrong planet.
I was like, oh, my bad. So I want them for all the,
Right. So, all of that. I like the you've heard me talk about The Greatest American Hero.
Yeah.
But you haven't actually seen it.
No.
So I like The Greatest American Hero aspect of it, where he doesn't know how to fly.
Oh, yeah, he's trying to fly.
He keeps crash landing.
You get the hang of it.
I don't remember that being in the comics, but it's so neat. It's so neat to see that, where he's crash landing all the time and still tripping up over himself.
Also, that tells me that U.S. has not been evaluated for at all.
Right.
He kept going to Earth for the wrong reason.
He kept going to Earth. Now he's worried about his job because he's going to the wrong planet for evaluation. So yeah, that's funny. And so and then it's going to be you've seen the videos, so there's a lot more in store.
Oh yeah.
So you see eventually. Did you see where what you call Omni-Man eventually leaves Earth?
You talking about
Omni-Man is Invincible's
Yeah,
father.
yeah, I know. I'm talking about when was that? 'Cause I know that they haven't animated that part yet.
No, we haven't seen an episode of that
But
yet.
I know it's basically because he beat up his son.
Right.
Because his son's found out the truth.
Right.
And I was like, oh, man, yeah, this is real heavy. He leaves
I don't
Earth.
think he even found out yet. I think he told his son the truth. I think he told him, it's like, we're going to take over the planet.
Well, I know he was explaining to someone what happened.
Right.
And I think it was Adam he was talking to. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But yeah, his father goes off to a different planet and has another child.
Right.
Like,
and that's his half brother. So that's going to be interesting.
And it basically
we're spoiling too much, though. We're spoiling too much. The audience shouldn't know about this.
If they read the comics, they'll be fine.
Yeah, sorry about the spoilers. Don't pay attention to us. We're just chatting here. So we're gonna move on. So what other things did you watch? What you call it?
What?
The Falcon and the Winter
No,
Soldier?
I haven't gotten to that.
Man,
yet.
you need to watch that joint.
Yeah, it will get
you. You got to watch that. That joint is awesome. That joint.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you a little slang that we used to say back in the day. That joint was like that.
Stop.
All right?
Stop that. Don't do that.
That joint was like that.
Don't do that.
You gotta
please.
watch that. You watch it tonight after we record this. Do that. It's only an hour at this point. Don't get in that point where you gotta catch up like 8 episodes.
I'm pretty sure it's on It's on the 3rd or 2nd episode.
No,
I'll be fine.
They only did the 2nd episode.
All right, so I'm fine then.
So what else?
What do you mean? What else?
What else you been doing this week?
Nothing.
Well, this week you can get to work getting out our glassware back in the what you call it.
Yeah. I got to do all that painting.
So
bring some boxes home.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing it this time because we don't need all that glassware here. But
I might end up doing it. I might end up going to Target anyway, doing it.
What happened was, like yesterday, I had a bad week last week. So last week, I was late for one of my loads because my alarm on my phone
didn't go off.
So my phone was off. Like off. When I woke up, it was super late. So I was late for everything. So that pushed my entire schedule back. And that's why I didn't get home until...
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, this man is late coming home.
I didn't get home until 11. And then
bothering me about what's in a box.
And then, what is in that box?
Don't worry about what's in the box.
There's an Amazon box.
Yeah, I know, but it's not really for you.
Roughly the shape of a large keyboard. Like a music keyboard, not a typewriter.
That's not what it is. Something I need
it's
to go ahead and return because it wasn't what I expected the way they showed the pictures of the product.
Or maybe it's a sword.
Well, you would never know.
But anyways.
I might end up keeping it since it doesn't look like UPS is coming to the house to pick it up like I want them to.
Yeah, you probably have to go to UPS. What was the other thing? So I was real late getting home. And then the next day I slept for like half the day because I was messed up. So I didn't really get a chance to do all that I wanted to do. And then I prepared for this show, basically for the rest of the night. And I planned to record this show yesterday, but it got so late I was like, it's not going to work. So instead, I wrote the write-up for the show after this one. So at least I'm prepared. So I did that. And then, what else did I do? I watch shows and whatnot. I finished that book. It's Bloody Acquisitions. I finally got it now. I finally got it. As a matter of fact, did I?
You probably didn't write it down, No,
I'm going to just look it up on the app that I...
Yeah,
see, here it is. I don't actually read the book. I listen to books on
audio. Yeah.
So I'm looking up on Audible right now. I'm just looking up who wrote it. Drew Hayes. Bloody Acquisitions by Drew Hayes. So, and it's about a vampire accountant called Frederick Fletcher. So that's a great series. He's a vampire. He's cavorting with were creatures and wizards and whatnot. And basically he has and a dragon. And he has to basically navigate the modern world as an undead person having to deal with all those forces. And all he wants to do is do his job. Why mess with him? I'm just trying to do your taxes and fix your accounting.
He's a vampire.
And I'm a vampire. I don't suck on blood. I get my blood from the blood bank. Just let me do my job, and I will leave you alone. How about that?
They don't care.
But they don't leave him alone. So, anyways, That's a pretty good series. So I finally finished that. It was a very satisfying book. And that was basically the only extracurricular thing I did. I did some drawings and whatnot, but that was the only extra that I did. And prepare for this show. And let's see, and I watched The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that joke was excellent. And I watched Invincible, and I'm starting to rewatch Battlestar Galactica. So that's my whole deal.
Yeah, I already know you was watching because I walked out there getting food. And I'm like, oh, he watching Invincible. Okay, then.
No, I was watching something else.
When
tonight?
Last night.
Oh yeah, that was last night. Okay. There was something else I wanted to mention, but I can't remember it. So we'll just move on. We're gonna move right along. We're gonna move right along to what we were talking about, and now I don't know where we are at.
We're supposed to be, on page 2. I'm pretty sure.
Well, we talk about what movie we talking about again?
Star Trek: First Contact.
Tell us about it.
Let's see. In the year 2063, Captain John? No.
Yeah.
Okay, John Luke Picard and the crew of the U.S.S. Enterprise race to Earth to prevent the Borg, a deadly race of advanced cyborg, from conquering the Earth. The Borg, however, have an ace up their sleeve: time travel.
I wrote that. I wrote that myself. I did. I'm proud of myself. I wrote that. I didn't copy and paste from IMDb, which is where I get most of my information. But I can only do that because I love Star Trek. As you can tell, dear audience, my son ain't into Star Trek like I'm into it because he struggled with the name Jean-Luc Picard.
Because I'm thinking like,
yeah,
is it really
I know.
Gene? Or is it, no, it must be John.
Right.
Even though it's spelled wrong as John.
It's not spelled wrong. It's in French. It's a French name. So that's
right.
It's according to how they pronounce words.
Doesn't feel right.
As a matter of fact, I know it doesn't, but we get a lot of our words from the French language because, France and England kind of had a beef. There was a time when France just straight up took over England, and we get a lot of our words like grenade and brigadier. Words. Whenever you look at a word and the letters don't even look like they work and they pronounce differently, it's probably a French word. So let's see. What was I looking for? Okay, yeah, let me go to the next part. It was released in November 22nd, 1996 by Paramount. It grossed over $146 million worldwide on a $45 million budget and had generally positive reviews. And that was one of the highest grossing Star Trek film that they had ever put out. As a matter of fact, it was the highest grossing until I guess it was 2000 something Star Trek, the Abrams Star Trek movie entitled Star Trek, starring Chris Pine.
Right.
And that was also great. But this is probably one of, I would say, for me, it's like the second best Star Trek movie. It's the first one is Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. Then this one, and then which one did we watch? We watched it wasn't the one with the whales, right?
No, all I remember was that he was basically about to be decommissioned as a captain, whatever.
Right. They had to stop. They was fighting the Klingons. Remember?
Yeah.
And they went on trials. It was Star Trek 4, the Undiscovered Country. So they had to go on trial, and Kirk had to break out of prison, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so that was, I would think that, to me, that's the second. And the third would be Star Trek, I can't remember the number, but it was called The Voyage Home. It must, I can't remember, 3, 4. I think it's Star Trek 4. So in Star Trek 4, so that was Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, was after Star Trek 3, Search of Spock, where they stole, Klingon vessel because they blew up their own ship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, then they went back to Earth. That's why it's called The Voyage Home. Anyways, I'm not going to name all the other ones in order, but those are my top 3 or 4 because this was just a great movie. And the box office backs me up. Tell us who starred in this movie.
Patrick Stewart as Captain John Luke Picard. He was in the X-Men movies, American Dad, Robot Chicken, and Dune.
So, and you mentioned that Patrick Stewart was the only one you knew.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right, because This is like his second major franchise. He played who?
I can't remember who he was in American Dad, but
No,
he's
not from American Dad. The one where you remember him.
Oh yeah, in X-Men he was Professor X.
Professor X. Also, Jonathan Frakes. He plays Commander William Riker. He did not do a lot of television movies. He's mainly a director or producer of some kind, but one of his most notable shows is Gargoyles. You remember that show?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who he could be. Was he the main one?
No, he wasn't the main gargoyle.
It wasn't him. So that means he was
He wasn't
either
a gargoyle.
Or so that means he was a human, the one with the ponytail.
Right, he was the main human dude. As a matter of fact, they drew him to look like to look like Jonathan Frakes.
Let's see. Brent Spinner was
okay. Let's get his name right. Brent
Spinner.
Spiner.
Okay. Not my fault. As Lieutenant Commander Data. He was in Warehouse 13, Star Wars Rebels, Penny Dreadful City of Angels.
Okay.
What kind of title is that?
So Penny Dreadful is a popular cable show. I think it's on Netflix. I haven't watched it, but I know it's popular. I didn't know he was in Star Wars Rebels, so that would make him another guy that has been in Star Trek and Star Wars. But I don't know what he played in Star Wars Rebels. And Warehouse 13 is just an old cable show. It was on the Sci-Fi Network. LeVar Burton played Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge. He was in Roots, Reading Rainbow, and LeVar Burton reads his podcast. Now, he's just an iconic actor. He himself is an iconic figure just because he was in Roots. Do you know anything of Roots?
No.
I poorly educated you.
On
the history of television.
Yes.
Roots was one of the most impactful television events in the history of television. So basically, it was a miniseries that told the story of enslavement, and it centered around a main character named Kunta Kinte, who was kidnapped from Africa and brought to America and was enslaved for basically the rest of his life. And he played the young Kunta Kinte, and trying to think, basically showed his life from there. And the reason it centers on him because it is the true story of Alex Haley's ancestry. It's based on a book by Alex Haley, and Kunta Kinte was the furthest back that he can trace his ancestry all the way. He was able to trace his ancestry all the way back to Africa. It tells the story of how his ancestors were kidnapped, brought to America, and had to live as slaves. Later on, the adult Kunta Kinte was played by what's his name? The guy that wasn't coming to America that owned I think it was I forget names so quickly. he owned the restaurant, that guy.
All right. Yeah.
I can't remember his name right now. But you know what I'm talking about, audience. You know who I'm talking about. That guy played the adult Kunta Kinte. I'm going on. Reading Rainbow was like a program that we watched as we were growing up. I was too old to watch it, but I watched it anyway. He read children's books. and kids growing up with Reading Rainbow, he's like a reverend figure from their childhood. He's on par with Mr. Rogers. Do you know who Mr. Rogers is?
Why you asked me that question? I know who
okay,
he is.
See, well, that. At least you know Mr. Rogers. The only person that I know that you know is, I know you know Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And you know Blue's Clues.
Yeah.
That was the one program that you can sit and watch an entire episode of and remain still. It was like a magic program when you were a baby. As a matter of fact,
what about Between the Lines? There was also that.
I don't know that one. But the funny thing about Blue's Clues is they played the exact same episode every single day of the week, and you watched every single episode. It was Blue's Clues, man. I owe him so much. Anyways,
you owe her. Oh yeah, Blue's a girl.
Well, I'm talking about the dude, Blue's owner. Anyways, let's see. Who's the next guy?
Michael.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael Dorn. He played Lieutenant Commander Worf.
Worf. You know which character that was?
Yeah, he was the. If I remember, he said he's a Klingon.
Right. He was the Klingon. He hasn't. I hadn't seen him appear in any significant media, but he is a good voice actor. Also, Gates McFadden. She played Dr. Beverly Crusher. A little piece of trivia about Gates McFadden. You notice I put in parentheses Cheryl because Cheryl is her real name. Her name is Cheryl McFadden. When she was cast as Beverly Crusher on the original TV series, she did not want people to know that she was in this show because she, along with all the other actors, figured the show was going to fail and fail hard. And they didn't was like, Cheryl was in that joint. Cheryl was in that joint. She was like, nah, I'm going to go by Gates. You can call me Gates McFadden. I don't want to be associated with this product if it fails. And it turns out it was a massive success, so everybody knows her as Gates McFadden, at least when she acts. But when she does choreography, because she's a dancer,
they know it has
Cheryl McFadden. That's how she prefers to be credited.
So, Marina Sirtis, is that right?
You know what? I'm going to give it to you. Here's the thing. I don't know how to pronounce her name either. I don't know if I've ever heard her name pronounced out loud. But in my mind, it's Marina Sirtis.
Okay, Sirtis. Was playing as Commander Deanna Troi?
Deanna Troi.
Okay,
right,
Deanna
right.
Troi.
So, she was, I guess you remember who she was. She was the one with the funny accent.
The funny accent. Oh, okay, the one that was down on Earth that got drunk.
Right. The funny thing about her, her accent is funny on purpose. She's from England. She actually has something of a London accent. She sounds more like Patrick Stewart. So, but when they originally did the show, they say, okay, you're an alien. We want you to have an accent because you're from a different planet. So this is an accent she made up for her character. Now, as the show progressed, remember this show lasted for 7 years, they had other characters that are reputedly from her race, Betazoids, come on the show, but they spoke with regular accents. They didn't change their accents to match hers. Right. And so she got really annoyed by this. It's like, do I have to keep doing this accent? And nobody else is doing this accent.
I'll be annoyed too.
Nobody else is doing, they didn't let her off the hook, so she continued to use that accent. We also have our first non-cast member from Star Trek. You can think of this as a guest stars. So we have Alfre Woodard. She played Lily Sloan. She was in The Core, Love and Basketball, True Blood, 12 Years a Slave, Captain America, Civil War, Luke Cage, and she was announced for Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Fun fact about that, it's actually Moon Boy, but I guess for the series they decided, you know what? It's going to be Moon Girl now.
We're going to change the gender. No one's going to care.
Right. So the funny thing is that, she is a very acclaimed actor at the time that they had made this film. So they decided, for the guest stars, we're going to have the most acclaimed people that we can find. And who was after that?
James Cornwell. He was Zafar?
Jesus. The funny thing is that you heard them say this name.
Yeah, but wasn't paying attention
so
that
first,
much.
His last name was pronounced Cromwell.
Okay.
And he played Zephyr Cochrane.
Okay.
What was he in?
He was in The Green Mile, The General's Daughter, L.A. Confidential, and iRobot.
Do you remember? You seen iRobot, right?
Yeah, I remember iRobot.
So you remember what he played?
No, because that was a long ago movie, but I remember it.
The only movie that I seen that he was in is iRobot. That I can remember.
I didn't know he was in The Green Mile.
Oh no, he was also in. I think it was Deep Impact. You seen that one?
I don't think so.
That's probably you were probably born by then. I mean, you was born by this movie, but you was only a few months old, so that's why I made exception for this movie. But in Deep Impact, he was. That was a movie where they see asteroids about to crash to the Earth, so the Earth has to make preparations for the asteroid to hit the Earth, and he was in that one. So I'm
thinking about something. I must be thinking about a different because I could have sworn they had to blow up that asteroid.
you're thinking about Armageddon.
Yeah.
So in this era, in the early 90s, movies love to copy each other.
Yeah.
So one studio was like, okay, we're going to make Deep Impact. Other studio's like, well, we gotta do something about this. We're going to make our own asteroid movie, so we're going to call it Armageddon. One movie like, we're going to make a disaster movie about volcanoes. The other movie's like, well, we can't let them get away with that. We're going to do one, we're going to call it Dante's Peak, and we're going to get Pierce Bronson the star. See how they did it a lot of times. Yeah, it was crazy. And these are like, this is not like DVD copies. Like you see the DVD fakes all the time.
Yeah.
But these weren't DVD. These are like major studios putting out competing movies like months apart from each other. So it's like if they're gonna like it one time, they're gonna like it again. So yeah, that's why you got confused. Anyways, in iRobot, he was the holographic figure that kept talking to Will Smith. He was the one that kept saying, "That is the correct answer." Because he kept asking the thing questions and the thing wouldn't answer. He was like, "That's the wrong answer. That's the wrong question. I can't answer that." And then he would say, Will Smith would say something insightful, and then the hologram would say, "That is the correct answer." And then he would vanish. So yeah, that was James Cromwell. Also, Alice Krige as the board queen. She was in Hansel and Gretel and Carnival Row.
Then you have Neil McConough.
That's a good one too. I don't actually know how to spell it, but in my mind, I think it's pronounced McConough. Neil McConough.
Okay, he was Lieutenant Hawk.
So, do you remember who Lieutenant Hawk was?
He was the one that survived the last, but not as much when they went outer space on the ship.
Right, they couldn't.
They have like, okay, we noticed they're gonna have a dish out. We need to get up there. Hey, right. You remember your Zoe training? Yeah, the baby puke. So you get what we're doing now.
Right.
I hate you.
So yeah, he was the third guy, and they wanted to get a character that you can care about a little bit, that they can eliminate. Because like as soon as he started having lines like, "Oh yeah, he's getting it," he's the guy in the red shirt. He's gonna get it because they're not gonna kill off the original cast members. It's gonna be.
I already feels like they're not gonna kill off the original cast members. No, they're gonna kill off the other ones that don't even matter.
Right. So, but they made you care about him a little bit because he had a few lines. Do you remember when you seen him? You seen him before?
Yeah, talking about in a TV show or something, or
you seen him in a movie. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was in a movie with The Rock. He was in this TV show that was a version of Alice in Wonderland. He's handsome enough where you see him a lot.
Well, no, I don't remember that.
No, you've seen him before, though. You've seen him in a superhero movie.
No, I just don't remember.
You've seen him in Captain America, the First Avenger.
When he was playing as a young Bucky?
No, that's not him.
Okay, then I don't really...
He was in... He was one of the Howling Commandos. So he was one of those soldiers. And he played like the most important Howling Commando, at least in the comics. So he played Dum Dum, I think it's Dooley, something like that. But his name is Dum Dum.
Well, I'm sorry, but his face is very forgettable for me.
He wears a bowler hat. And did you see Walking Tall with The Rock?
I believe
so. Walking that. Tall in The Rock, he played the main villain. He played the guy he was causing chaos in that county or town. So The Rock became a sheriff of the town, so that he could properly oppose the guy that's messing up the town. And so the guy that's messing up the town was played by Neil McConough.
Oh, yeah. Face name doesn't really ring a bell for me. So,
right. But this movie was directed by Jonathan Frakes, who played Commander Riker. He's directed a lot of TV episodes. The producers wanted somebody who really understood Trek, and nobody understands Trek better than the actor. And one actor that had the most experience directing was Jonathan Frakes. He didn't have as much success directing other movies as he did this movie. So the only one I can remember, well, he's directed. The page is broken up. I didn't mean to break it up like that. But anyways, he directed Clockstoppers, Thunderbirds, and episodes of NCIS, episodes of The Librarian, and episodes of Star Trek Discovery.
This was written by Gene Roddenberry.
I spelled it wrong. My bad.
Rick Berman. Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon Braga. Ronald D. Moore.
Oh, he did pretty good on those names. So Gene Roddenberry, he created Star Trek, so they always give him credit. Rick Berman and Brendan Braga, they mainly do Star Trek. I haven't really done a deep dive on their careers, but they're mainly on Star Trek. And then Ronald D. Moore is known for the best seasons of DS9. It's like after Gene Roddenberry passed away, and he was basically given control of DS9. He really reimagined the way Star Trek was. And also, he made Battlestar Galactica reboot, which is one of the best science fiction shows on television. And the alt history Apple Plus show called For All Mankind. And I hear it's good, but we don't have Apple Plus, and I've got too much on my plate.
Then we don't need it because we're not an Apple family.
Oh, actually, let me ask you something real quick. Is your mom still paying for the WWE network?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Because she doesn't have to anymore because they're putting it on Peacock, and we already got Peacock for free, and then I upgraded it since it was only $5 a month.
I'll let her know then.
Right.
Well, I mean, we don't know how long it's gonna stay on there because.
Right. Well, we can pick it back up, but we don't need it right now. Well, she doesn't need to pay for it right now. And also, regarding the WWE Network, did you know that since they put it on Peacock, they had Peacock is the streaming service on NBC. Yep. You know they're re-editing everything in the WWE.
Oh yeah, I already imagine that they're doing that. Like right. I'm pretty sure every time it says WWF, they're gonna replace that.
No, not that. Right. They're editing out all the controversial moments. Anything that was slightly controversial seemed like slightly racial insensitive or something like that.
Oh, like how Xbox was blackface? Oh, yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Maybe, I didn't know if Xbox was blackface.
Yeah,
that's
he was.
Probably, that's one of the ones they're going to do? No, it was Triple H that was blackfacing.
One of them did it. I don't remember.
Because he was imitating The Rock. I don't know if he went full blackface or if he just put The Rock's hair on.
No,
and he
went full.
He went full blackface. But nobody found that controversial back then. We just thought it was funny because he was trying to. But now people are a little bit more sensitive about it. And so it was that. There was a way back when Roddy Piper was one of the most popular wrestlers.
Oh yeah, he also did the thing. He also did it too.
Right, he did half blackface, which was supposed to be making a statement about something, but. Paramount don't want to hear none of that. They was like, we editing all of this out. We don't care. You're not going to see it on here. Back to the credits. The music was by Jerry Goldsmith. He's done The Hollow Man, The 13th Warrior, and The Mummy. But whenever they need a little Star Trek, it's like, call Jerry. Get Jerry on the phone. We doing another Star Trek movie. Get Jerry on the phone. That's how that goes. Executive producer Marty Hornstein. He did Along Came a Spider. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. Along Came a Spider, and he did a bunch of probably all the other Star Trek movies. I'm pretty sure he did all of the other ones. I hate the way the scrolls. It's not scrolling correctly. Okay, so we have done the producers.
So yeah, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back to talk about our favorite parts of the movie, some movie trivia, and find out what some of the critics thought.
Hi, my name is Leroy Brown, and I am the sensei, or teacher, of the Leroy Brown Soul Brother No. 1 Martial Arts Studio. Join me and you can learn the art of fighting without fighting. If you continue with your training, you will learn to center your soul, and learning this will improve your work and personal life by reducing stress. The training here has several levels, and should you reach the final level, your body will be surrounded by a glorious golden glow, giving you the power to be a profoundly powerful influence in your family, your neighborhood, and our society. So call me, Leroy Brown, for your initial consultation, as slots are quickly filling up at the Leroy Brown Soul Brother No. 1 Martial Arts Studio, and begin your journey to the final level. Use promo code BACKLOOK for a free first session.
The song Get the Groove by Dave Miles, provided by Zapsplat.com.
So Zachary, we are now at the pivotal moment. What was your favorite part of the movie?
Favorite part is when John Picard is like, you know what? Screw the orders. We're going to go fight the Borg. We're doing it. Come on. Go to Earth. Doing it now.
That was the early part of the movie.
Oh, yeah, that was like, So any objections?
Right.
Any?
None?
All right, let's go ahead.
So what Zach is talking about is that they first hear that the Borg is on a straight path to Earth to attack the Earth. The Borg is the Federation's most formidable enemy. Really, the enemy of the entire Gamma Quadrant, but particularly of humans. They really trying to assimilate the humans, and so the Enterprise is, instead of being sent, the most advanced ship in the fleet, being sent to deal with the Borg or help out the rest of the fleet with the Borg, they're sent away from the battle to what's known as the neutral zone to supposedly monitor to see if the Romulans are going to take advantage. Another enemy is going to take advantage of the Borg attacking the Earth. And so they go to the neutral zone and they get bored and they're like, you know what, we're going to join the battle.
And the main reason why they didn't want the Enterprise because they the Borg already assimilated John Picard before, and that is and they're in the Enterprise's fear of basically him letting that overcome him.
Right. They're afraid that his prior involvement with the Borg would affect his command decisions, and it would be he would be an unstable element to the battle, so they wanted to keep him behind. But and his name is Jean-Luc, not just John. It's two names.
I know, but
it's Jean-Luc. Give the man his respect, or Picard.
Fine, I'll just say Picard.
Yeah, do that. Give the man his respects, okay? So anyway, Jean-Luc decided this is all horse crap. We're going down there and we're gonna fight the fight. And they do, and because he's been assimilated, he knows more about fighting the Borg than people who haven't. So they go down there and they help out. They destroy the Borg cube. I know you didn't see it, but there's a famous Easter egg in this scene where the people who did the special effects, ILM, hid the Millennium Falcon in the battle.
I feel like it was there, like in the back.
It's way, way in the background. You would have to pause the DVD and then have a way of blowing it up, and then you'll see a fuzzy outline of what looked like it could be the Millennium Falcon. But these people are like, trust us, it's there. We know what we did. We put it in there. So, yeah, they did put the Millennium Falcon in the battle. But yeah, they destroyed the Borg cube. So, what other parts did you like?
Let's see. Trying to think. I want to say I like the parts where everyone is basically like freaking out over the guy who made warp speed.
Yeah,
they're like all trying to be professional, but they can't help themselves.
Right, they're all hero worshipping Zefram Cochrane, the man who invented warp speed for humans. There's like other species had already invented warp speed, but they intended to. The closest species was the Vulcans. They decided to avoid Earth because the Earth didn't have warp speed technology. They didn't have faster than light technology. So they avoided Earth. And apparently that was the only species that was close enough to Earth to care. Because if they were discovered by any other species, they would probably come and try to conquer Earth. I was like, they're predator, we can take them. But the Vulcans don't have that mentality. So it was, so they're all freaking out, you're right, about their hero worshipping, and he doesn't like it. Zefram Cochrane is like, I wish you would stop bothering me. Leave me alone. He didn't want the fame. He just wanted the fortune. What other parts did you like?
When they found out that there's a Borg on the ship, and they're trying to figure out, okay, since we know this is what's causing the issue, we know where they're at, we know what they're trying to do, we have a plan. We're going to go to, the maintenance room? Engineering room? Go there. There are, I want to say, like, not hydraulics,
it was coolant.
Yeah, coolant. You were going to shoot one of them, and I would basically kill the Borgs because they need organics to live.
Right. That was pretty cool.
And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good plan.
Right.
And they, they slowly make the plan. They get ready to we only have like 12 or 13 shots because after that, they're going to be they're going to, be used to it. They're going to be upgraded.
Right.
To make it last.
Right.
And at first, they're doing fine. Come across the first two Borgs, they don't fire because Picard's like, they won't see us as a threat.
Right. Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was a peculiar aspect of the Borg. They act as a hive mind, as a collective, and they only pay attention to whatever their objective is. So if you're not a threat, then they will not bother you.
Yeah, they would
So as soon as you try get in the way of their objective, then they'll just assimilate you. Unless their goal is to assimilate you, they will not try to assimilate you. As far as they're concerned, you can wait till later. As on earlier episodes of the actual TV show, they actually beam aboard the Borg ship a bunch of times, and the Borg totally ignore them because they are inconsequential. So, and they act the same way in the movie. So yeah, and you're right. They fired the first couple of shots, and then they adapted to the phaser fire, and the phaser fire was no longer effective. So what else did you like?
When Picard I can't remember her name, when he came across the Earth woman, Lily on the ship, she grabs his phaser and just holds it at gunpoint, threatening him to get her off the ship. But she doesn't know that she's on a ship until he brings her to a place where he can show her, like, yeah, you're on a ship. There's Earth.
Right.
I'm letting you know, even though I'm gonna let you know most things.
Right.
Of what's going on.
Right. Yeah, she just says, "Get me out of here," because she thinks she's in a place. She doesn't know that she's on a ship. So she's like, "Get me out of here," and she points his phaser at him, talking about, "You're gonna get me out of here. I'm gonna start pushing buttons." She's like, all right, hold on a second, hold on a minute, hold on, come with me. And so take her to the room, opens the door, and she earths from space. It's like, there's Australia, there's New Guinea. We keep going around. We'll reach Wyoming. It's a long jump though. You don't want to hold your breath.
He's like, and then he gets the phaser back. He's like, it was on max. You could have made me to dust.
Yeah, she would have Thanos'd him. He said you would have vaporized me. Maximum setting, because that's what they had set it up to fight the Borg. What else you like?
When it was when they had to get rid of the dish from on the ship, and they had to go, and like there's three panels, and they had to all get to it, and like they're trying to put in codes, but it's like access denied. A Borg knows, like, what are you doing?
Right.
Ignores. Tries again, access denied. What are you doing? It's like, that's the second warning. Third one, he goes over to Lieutenant what was his name? Worf. Lieutenant Commander Worf. Now, Worf was like, okay, fine then. Shoot him. Done. No, it was not Worf that, because Worf saw it and it didn't work. He's like, okay, I got to fight this man hand-to-hand combat.
He shot one of them, I think.
No, that was Lieutenant Hawk that saw it.
Oh, okay.
Lieutenant Hawk saw it. He was like, okay, that was a success.
That one round.
He's like, time to get back to work. Then for Wolf, he's like, okay, let me shoot. Someone already fired. Okay.
Right.
Can't do that again. It's like hand-to-hand combat time. He was the first one to get his panel to work. He's like, okay, he's done, but now he has to do hand-to-hand combat. He wins the fight, but at the cost of basically getting his a part of the shoot cut.
Right.
He's like, oh, you only got 64 seconds of air. I'm like, ooh,
right,
that's not good.
Right.
I was like, you know what? They're going to use some type of way to keep him alive. I feel it. They're not going to show it on screen, but they're going to show what he did to keep himself alive after everything's done. Then it goes back to Alex, I believe? Hawk, Lieutenant Hawk.
Right.
He's trying to pull up his panel, but it doesn't work because he's not putting enough strength into it. He gets picked up, another board comes, picked him up. I was like, oh, he's assimilated. At first, I'm thinking he is going to get tossed off the ship. But I was like, they won't do that. They're going to assimilate him. Right. I can feel it. Picard get his, but before he gets his, again, putting in the code, access denied, Boyd comes over. He already knows that his blast is not going to work because Lieutenant Commander Wolf told him. He was like, okay, shoot the flooring. Air shooting out. That boy is just gone and out of space. I'm like, oh, he's gone.
Right. He actually shoots the hull of the ship, causing a violent air. I forgot what it's called. When air explosively comes out of a vessel like that. Explosive decompression. That's what it's called. So he causes explosive decompression because they're on the outside of the ship. He shoots the hole. The hole is fractured. Cause air to push the Borg out into space.
Oh, yeah,
that was a brilliant tactic.
I'm like, he's gone.
Come to think of it, they could have did it to some of the other Borgs.
Yeah, they could have. Picard gets his done, but another Borg comes, so he's like, well, I can't pull the same stunt again. So instead, as he's backing up to the wall, he turns off his anti-gravity.
Yeah,
anti-gravity boots.
No, it's not anti-gravity. It's magnetic boots.
Yeah, magnetic boots.
Right.
Jumps forward to get around the Borg.
Right.
Grab a part of the ship, reactivate the magnetic boots, go to where Lieutenant Hawk was at, and activates that.
Right. So Lieutenant Hawk didn't get a chance.
Yeah, he didn't get a chance because he was assimilated. Now, the panel does, all of them is accessed. The panel looks up. Next thing you know, you see Lieutenant Hawk assimilated. I was like, oh, well, that happened.
Right.
I forgot. What did he do to get him off? I think he shot him? No. Either he shot him or he turned off the magnetic boots. And
you talking about for Hawk?
Yeah.
No, Worf got Hawk. Worf shot Hawk.
Oh, yeah, he did get shot.
Right.
And then, they shoot a pole that was holding the panel after they cause it to be lifted up, and it floats off into space. Now at that point, the Borg was almost done. They was like, I want to say 98% done.
Right.
With the they had.
Right.
And the Lieutenant Commander Worf was like this, talking about assimilate this, shoots it, explosion. I'm like, oh well.
Yeah.
That happened.
It's funny. Assimilate this is so 80s. This is one of the most 80s things you can say. And they did that on purpose. They wanted to do a callback to the action movies of the 1980s. So in the 80s they would say something like eat this or surf's up or, drive this or, something stupid like that. So Worf was like, assimilate this. And shoots and blows up the antenna array that the Borg was trying to assemble. So yeah, that was a neat part. That was perfectly described. It was a nice little mini moment. What else you got?
When can't remember their names, but when they was on Earth, they got the ship ready, they're about to launch. And the guy's like, wait, we can't. Where is it? He's looking for something. They're
looking for a very important part.
I'm thinking he's looking for a flash.
So what Zachary is talking about is that when they're on, the whole objective for the Enterprise crew being on the planet is to help Zephyr Cochrane launch the very first warp-capable spaceship. He invented warp speed. He created the warp engine and put it in a object that used to be a nuclear missile. He turned it into a warp spacecraft. And they were supposed to launch into space. He's supposed to activate the warp, go to warp for the first time, and that ushers in humanity's entrance into interstellar space. So they're on his ship. They're going to launch his ship. It has to launch at a particular time because, remember, they're back in time, and they have to try to maintain the timeline as best as they can to preserve the future that they know. So they're in Zephyr's ship. They're already started a countdown. He's supposed to launch, and then he's talking about, wait, I forgot something. We can't launch without it.
Again, I'm thinking he's talking about like a flash because he's been dreaming most of the time. I'm like, he must be looking for his flash.
Right.
But no, he was looking for like this futuristic CD case.
Right. It was
for music.
And
then he puts it in, plays it, it's on blast, and it's like almost everyone's eardrums is being busted. Right. Especially the ones that are counting down.
Right. I forgot. It's some kind of country style folk song. The song. It's a type of song that they play in Mountain Dew commercials. So they play that song, and it's like, it's not the music I listen to, so I didn't categorize it. But so they start blasting the song as his favorite kind of music, and the countdown continues, and they go off into space. So yeah, that happened. And later on, they had to tell him to turn it down. So what else you got?
When Picard gives himself up, and when he is doing that, I forgot her name, but she's like, I guess I'm gonna call her the Queen,
Yeah,
Queen
that's-
Borg,
yeah,
the
there you
Queen.
go.
She's like, oh well, I already found someone perfect, and it's Beta, where she basically didn't assimilate him technically, but
Right.
basically changed his views because since he wanted to be human in a sense of way, she gave him what he wanted
Right.
by
She gave him
the sense of actually like being human, like skin on his arm,
right. She
skin
basically
on his face,
right. She grafted human skin onto part of his arm and part of his face, so he could have
aka
real
his actual skin and actual face.
right. So he could have real human sensations because he already had emotions, but he didn't have human sensations like the way we would feel stuff.
You know, because like, oh man, they got my man Data.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's everything. He's always talking about, don't do it, don't give them the commands, don't.
Right.
You know.
Right, because the Borg are locked out of the ship. Data had put an encryption code to prevent the Borg from hacking the ship. So if they couldn't hack the ship's computer, they couldn't take over the ship. And Picard had also started a self-destruct countdown. And Data first deactivated the self-destruct and then deactivated the encryption code so that the Borg can do what they wanted with the ship. And then what happened?
Oh yeah, basically she wanted him to watch as, you know, what was supposed to be the first contact, you know, a failure by blowing up the ship.
Right. She wanted to blow up the very first warp-capable vessel.
Now, what it looked like, Data aimed on it,
right,
fired 3 missiles, purposely actually missed. I was like, oh,
right.
There's a turnaround.
right.
There's a fake out.
Right. That was a nice fake out because you thought that maybe Data had willingly gave herself to the Queen, and as soon as they saw that the missiles missed, she was like, Data, and then he jumped over. He smashes the coolant, which is what they wanted to do in the first place.
Yep.
And the coolant flooded the chamber, basically eating up all the flesh. Picard was savvy enough to free himself from his bonds so he could get to a higher
I don't think
elevation.
he was actually tied down, really.
Right.
I think he was just laying on the table because he accepted to be assimilated.
Right.
So he's like, okay, this is my chance to escape. Got up, grabbed onto some wiring to climb up to avoid it.
Right, to avoid the corrosive material. And that's how they won.
Like, very clever. And it's like when it was like, okay, who is the aliens? I had to think. I was like, it's gonna be them. It's gonna be the Vulcan, isn't it? I was like, yep, it's a Vulcan.
Right. So yeah, the Vulcans were the first contact. They're really the most peaceful species that's close to Earth, because a lot of the other species that are close to Earth, like the Romulans, is relatively close. I can't remember what they're called, but they're a species with blue skin and antenna. I think they're called Andorians. I can't remember. Anyway, that species is particularly violent, and they're relatively close to Earth. And so the Vulcans was like their best
options.
Right, their best options. So what happened is, in the histories, at least in the history of the future, Zephyr Cochrane, he gets on the spaceship, he takes it out for a test flight, he goes into warp. When a ship goes into warp, it sets out a signature that can be detected by an advanced species. The Vulcans happen to be passing by the neighborhood. They detect the warp signature, and they realize that humans are now advanced enough to make first contact. So they go to Earth and they introduce themselves.
Yeah.
And so, because they didn't really explicitly say it too much in this movie, but Federation has kind of adopted the Vulcan philosophy, and that is how to introduce yourself to another species and first contact. So the Federation as a whole, they generally avoid interacting with primitive species or any species that doesn't have warp technology, any species that isn't capable of going out and visiting other worlds. As soon as they do that, then the Federation visits and says, hey, we're out here. We're aliens. We're here just to let you know before you take your spaceship, start exploring the universe. We're already out here. We're trying to be friendly. So, and that's basically what the Vulcans are doing. So, to that end, when the Starfleet goes to Earth, they get clothing that resembles Earth clothing of that time period, so they don't out themselves. And so they basically infiltrate Earth and blend in, and at the same time try to help the people accomplish what they were doing in the past.
I mean, because they did time travel and they did, I can't say they interfere, but they did insert some things that was not supposed to be said, like telling the man that, oh yeah, you're gonna have a statue.
Right.
You said some quotes. I'm like, why?
Right.
You wrote this book. There's a school about you.
Right. He said,
you're not supposed to be telling them this.
Right. I think Jordy told him way too much.
You're not supposed to be telling them anything.
Right. Because they're fan worshiping him. They're hero worshiping him. So they're like massive fanboys. They start acting like Star Trek nerds going to a Star Trek.
The only one that kept his cool was First Command. He was the only one that kept his cool.
Who you talking about?
His Picard #1.
Oh, you talking about William Riker?
Yeah, he kept his cool. He's like, he wasn't the one.
He was the one talking about. You told him about the statue.
Like, y'all insane.
Right. And if you notice in the background, everybody in the background kept looking at him.
Oh, yeah, they kept saying, I'm like,
right.
Goodness gracious, it's the man.
Right. It's the man. It's that. Jordy was like, they built a statue in this spot over here.
Where you're standing, you're looking to the skies, with your hands up, like, wow.
And he was like, what you call it? He was like, I gotta go take a leak. And Jordan was like, I don't detect any leaks around here.
You don't pee in the 24th century? It's like, oh, I get it now.
I get it. Oh, that's cool. That's funny. That's clever.
Stop.
A leak. That was funny. What you call it? So one of my favorite parts is when Alfre Woodard, she was playing I forgot her name. Lisa or Ellie? What character?
Are you talking about when she was down getting drunk?
No, you're thinking about you're thinking about Deanna Troy. Okay, although that was a great part. Lily Sloan. That was Alfre Woodard. That was she was with Captain Picard. Remember, she was pointing a gun at him and everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is when the crew was like, we need to get out of it. Well, no, first let me go to my other favorite part. This is the one that lived with me ever since the movie came out. So Worf was like, the crew came up and he was like, they've adapted to all our phases, just like we're shooting blanks. It's like, there's nothing we can do against the Borg now. And Picard was like, you know what? Figure out a way to adapt the phases even further and fight them hand to hand if you have to. And the guy, he was like, oh, shoot, I don't want to do that. and Worf was there and he was like, wait, he's like, come on, Captain, we need to abandon ship and set up auto-destruct because we've lost the ship. We have lost. There's nothing we can do about the Borg. The Borg are stronger. They've got all of their technology. They have their guns, and their guns still work. Plus, they can assimilate crew members and turn them into Borg, and so they can actually increase their numbers as they fight, which Starfleet personnel cannot do. And then now you're in this situation where you're shooting your own crew members in order to survive. And most of them were the crew members because only like 2 or 3 Borg actually got aboard the Enterprise.
That's all.
And everybody else was assimilated, right? So it's like, they're in a situation where they cannot win. And Picard was like, we have to fight. And Worf was like, we need to abandon ship. And that's when Picard called him a coward. And Worf was like, if you were any other man, I'd kill you where you stand. I love that part. And then, Picard was like, get off my bridge. And then everybody just starts following his orders, even though they hate his orders. And Lisa, is her name Lisa? Lily. I keep messing up her name. Lily was like, y'all just gonna let him talk to you like that? Y'all just gonna do it?
He's a captain.
And the doctor was like, he's a captain. We got to carry out his orders. Like, once he makes up his mind, we have to carry it out. And she was like, she actually put up her hand. She was like, talk to the hand. I'm not hearing that. And so she went to the captain's quarters. It's like, what is you doing? It's like, those people depend on you. What is you doing? And he was like,
you basically see him lose his cool, and as you can see, this is what the Federation was fearing itself.
Right.
Was his own experience getting in the way of him keeping a cool mind.
Right. That's exactly what happened.
And now he kept saying he's not doing it for revenge. He's doing it for revenge.
Right. He's actually doing it for revenge. He was like, they take our space and we fall back. They assimilate whole worlds and we fall back. Well, no longer. We must draw the line here. No, and he breaks stuff.
He breaks the glass. Where you see other.
He breaks
ships.
his. Yeah, those are all versions of the Starship Enterprise. So he breaks the display cabinet, breaks some of the ships, and Alfred Wood or Lily was like, well, I guess Captain Ahab has to get his will. Now, before I go, are you familiar with the story of Moby Dick?
No, not really.
So, Moby Dick is what they're referencing in this
I
movie.
figured that because they already straight up said Moby Dick.
Right. But the funny thing is that it's referenced in several Star Trek stories. And the only other story I can remember, though, is the movie we haven't watched yet, Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, the best Star Trek movie. And in that one, that's where Khan defeated, he's like, I got one more ace up my sleeve. And at this point, he says, from hell's heart, I stab at thee. I spit upon thee for hate's sake. I'm like, man, that's hardcore. Because at this point, when Ahab says this, he's attached to the whale that he's trying to kill. Like he's attached with harpoon line. Harpoons are sticking out of the whale. And it's like, he's just like, oh, I'm going to just spit at you. I can't win because I'm attached to you. I'm about to die. I'm going to just spit at you just for the sake of it. So it was referenced then. And then it's referenced in this movie. So story of the, I actually read Moby, well, I didn't read, I listened to Moby Dick, which is how I consume most of my books nowadays. And it's long and it's super dry and it's so hard to even listen to. I can't imagine reading this book. It's so hard.
I can imagine that. I can see it.
It was written so long ago. The language it was different in, I think, 1800s. So, and it mostly wasn't even a story. Mostly it was a manual about how to do whaling. So back in those times, if you wanted to heat a lamp, you would need oil, something flammable, right? Because now we use electricity. Back then they didn't have electricity, they used oil. The best oil that you can use is what?
Whale oil?
Whale oil. That is correct. So whaling was a huge industry. If they could hunt whales to extinction, they would have done it because it was like it was before they discovered crude oil from the ground. So it was before then. So they got most of the oil from whales. So they would, and it was before natural gas, obviously. So they would hunt whales. They would for the carcass and for the oil that it carried. And then so Herman Melville, who was a writer, he actually went on one of these whaling expeditions, and apparently he wrote down everything that he witnessed and that he did. He was actually part of a whaling crew, and so when he was ready, he wrote Moby Dick. It was based on kind of a true story about a whale that other ships had a hard time taking down. Whales are pretty smart. We know now how much smarter they are than we originally thought. If there's an area where there's a lot of whaling activity, they'll tell their pod to avoid that area. He's like, don't go over there. Them sticks are over there. Where they stick you, those guys that stick you, they're over there in that area. So we need to move over here. So that's how they are. I think the sperm whale is one of the ones they like to hunt so much. They got one of the biggest brains in the animal kingdom. So that's something that they did. So
too bad they can't really do anything about killer whales. Or orcas.
I mean, they would do.
They just have issues with orcas.
Well, see, the thing is, the orcas didn't have a lot of fat and blubber that they could use. That's why they always went for the giant whales. Because the orcas, they thought they called it blackfish. Orcas are very dangerous, but they're also smart, and they're also not big enough to, for their purposes. They probably killed a bunch of orcas, but they're really not big enough for their purposes. So, what you call it? Is your window open? Because I can hear people outside.
That's how loud they are.
Goodness gracious, they're super loud. So, anyways, did they replace your blind, or yours is just never broken?
Mine was never broken.
Oh, okay, cool. So, anyways, Like, I'm going off on a tangent. So, anyways, so in the story of Moby Dick, like I said, he wrote it down, and most of it was just a manual about what he witnessed when he was out whaling. But then they finally get to the story about a captain who really wanted to get this. It's like this whale kept escaping him, so he wanted to go after this particular whale. So he would actually give up a sure thing to go after this particular white whale that everybody nicknamed Moby Dick. So he saw Moby Dick. He decided he was going to be the one to kill it, and trying to kill it basically failed. Somehow got caught up in a harpoon line and got attached to the whale on a harpoon line, and failed in his mad quest to try to get this whale. And I think the Pequod was sunk. I can't remember that. Well, I think they referenced in the movie that the Pequod was sunk. But that's what they referenced when she said Captain Ahab had to get his whale. And then he started remembering lines from Moby Dick. And he referenced kind of the same portion of the book that Khan referenced. And Picard said that Ahab was like, if his chest were a cannon, he would have shot his heart upon it. That's some hate right there. That is some serious hate. So that's when Picard realized that he was becoming obsessive, and Lily basically turned him around. And that's when he went back on the bridge. He says, okay, just prepare for self-destruct. Everybody get to your life pods. And that was a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah, Lieutenant Commander Wolf, I'm sorry for some of the things I said.
And
he's like, some
of it?
So you are not a coward. You're one of the bravest men I know. He's like, okay, okay.
Right. And then there was another fight. They kept clowning Worf like at the very beginning of the first battle. And Worf was on the Defiant, which is a smaller ship that was specifically designed to fight the Borg.
You're talking about he was on that small ship? Small.
Right. No, he said when he was rescued, that's what Riker's like, tough little ship, little.
Yeah, tough little ship. Little.
and then Worf's former job was security chief, and he was a tactical officer. So
you remember how they could use the phasers? Why are you insulting me?
Right. Like I just wrestled with you, man. And so that part where the Captain Ahab part. And so the other part was I think I went through both of the parts that I was talking about. The part when if you were any other man, and then the part where the Captain Ahab. So that was pretty cool. Pretty much every interaction that he had with Lily was great. Where like when him and Lily were together, it was awesome. So there was a part where he was guiding her away from the Borg. They go into a holodeck, and he has a story running.
Oh, yeah.
And then at first, it was the wrong story because he's looking for somebody named The Nose or whatever. And then he changes the chapter.
And then go to chapter 20.
And then it goes from a bar that's about to close to a ballroom that's in full swing. And the Borg are in the holodeck looking for Picard. Picard is going through a holodeck, which is full of holograms. There is basically holograms and force fields. So they go through the holograms, they find the Nose, they beat up his men and take his atomic machine gun, a weapon type that is apparently not available on or standard issue on Starfleet ships. And so as the Borg get close, he starts lighting them up with the Tommy gun, shooting lead bullets at the Borg, and it's very effective.
Like, I thought you said use a holo. They wouldn't hurt. It's like, oh no, I turn off the safety. I'm like, okay,
right, because if the safety is disengaged, then the holograms can kill you. So, in a normal setting, they have the safety interlock. So if somebody gets hit with a bullet, it won't kill them. So what happens is that, and even with the safety engaged, people still get hurt in the holodeck. So anyways, what you call it? So he kills them, and Lily realized this is one of your own men. I was like, yeah, that's Ensign, what's his name? So
he's like, I don't care at the moment.
He's really detached from his crew members that have been turned to Borg. He's like emotionally distant. It's almost like he himself is becoming Borgified, even though he is not a Borg. So it's like a shocking turn. He's acting in a shocking manner. And then when Data calls for help, then he remembers his humanity, because when he was turned to a Borg, it's not like his crew just forgot about him.
Yeah, his crew went to go save him.
Right, went to go save him. They literally risked everything to save him. I mean, they were going to blow him up at first. To be fair, they were going to blow him up. But the weapon that they used didn't work. So it's like, well, maybe we can save him. And it was really self-serving because they felt that if they can save him, they could figure out, they can hack his system, because he's a Borg now. They can hack him and find out a way to defeat the Borg. So, but it's true. They did risk everything to rescue him after their plan to blow him up didn't work. But anyway, and he realizes his humanity and he goes to save Data. And then, all the parts that you said about them being on the planet, that was pretty awesome. They actually had to shoot Zephyr Cochrane in order to get him to cooperate. Him launching him, because it's like after all this hero worship, he tried to run away.
Hey, he got phaser stunned.
Right, he got phaser stunned because he was like, because he didn't want all this hero worship. He tried to run away, and then when they were on the ship, it was a shocking revelation. It's like I didn't build the warp drive to try to usher in a new phase of humanity. I just wanted dollar signs. I wanted money. I'm trying to retire. Also, one of the things I noticed too is that James Cromwell, the guy who played Zephyr Cochrane, is really tall, because the guy that played William Riker, his name is Jonathan Frakes. He is fairly tall. I think he's probably like maybe 6 feet tall. And Zephyr Cochrane is probably, or James Cromwell is probably tall enough to play basketball. So usually when you watch any given Star Trek episode, William Riker is almost always the tallest person. And only, I think the guy, Michael Dorn, is probably the same height or a little bit taller, a little bit shorter. It's comparable. But it's like, I was shocked at how tall James Cromwell is. He's like a skyscraper. It's like you rarely see William Riker tilting his head all the way up to look up at somebody. So that was shocking. So, that was the movie. You got anything else you can think about?
The reference of what Rick and Morty done.
What was the Rick and Morty reference?
Okay, there was one where in the very beginning of the movie where Luke Picard is
Jean-Luc
Picard. Jean-Luc Picard. If that makes you happy and better.
And then you're saying John, but it's more softer. Jean-Luc. It's like Jean-Claude Van Damme. Okay. Jean-Luc. Uh-huh. All right, go ahead. Continue.
When he's, I guess, against a table, whatever, and you see a whole bunch of others, it reminded me of the scene where Rick is basically in jail with a bunch of other criminals. Right.
That was at the very beginning you talk about, when he was having his nightmare. And that was he was captured by the Council of Ricks.
Not the Council of Ricks, the Federation.
I thought it was the Council of Ricks that got... Okay.
Because the Federation hates the Council of Ricks. Because Rick is their enemy.
Right. So he was captured by the Federation. And he was in a room... He was like in a jail.
He was in a jail full of all criminals.
Right,
and one of the criminals talking about, what are you waiting for? Everything.
Right.
Explain, but okay then.
Right. That's what Rick said, right?
Yeah. I'm here for everything.
Like, right. Anything you can imagine, I did it.
And then for the Borg itself, there was an episode when Rick met his old girlfriend, Entity, who is, again, an entity that can just assimilate a whole entire planet and take over people.
Right.
And then you have a bunch of cyborg aliens coming in to basically have a partnership and basically, share resources.
Right.
I was like, that looks like the Borg.
Right.
I was like, okay then.
Right. Wow. Their famous speech, "We are the Borg. We will assimilate you. Your technological and biological..."
Because if I remember, his name was Beta 7.
Right.
And it's talking about, and Beta 7 asks, has all life on here been assimilated?
Right. Yeah, your technological and biological uniqueness would be added to our own. Resistance is futile. And somebody might say, we would rather die. And the Borg will respond, death is irrelevant. And negotiation is irrelevant. Death is irrelevant. Resistance is futile. And then next thing you know, everybody's wearing "Resistance is Futile" t-shirts. So that that was a great movie. What did you think overall about the movie?
It was a good movie. I feel like it's something that could pass on today as a movie.
Yeah, it's still a good movie. It holds up extremely well, and many of your contemporaries would agree. So let's hit that trivia. Let's go and see what the nitty gritty about this movie. Oh, this is a long episode. We're already more than 120 minutes in. Well, we're almost done, folks. We're almost done. Although there was a lot of trivia. So, due to budgetary restrictions, the crew of Star Trek: The Next Generation, 1987, was never quite satisfied with Borg sets and costume as used in the series. However, the significantly bigger budget for this movie finally allowed them to design the Borg in a way that was much closer to what they had intended. As a result, the suits and sets were reused extensively on Star Trek Voyager in 1985.
Good way to reuse money.
Right.
The U.S.S. Definite Defiant introduced.
That's a regular word, by the way. That's a regular word. Go on.
Introduced on Star Trek Deep Space Nine that came out in 1993, was built for the sole purpose of fighting and defeating the Borg. This movie featured the only time the ship fights the Borg.
Although his name is never given in this movie, according to Star Trek canon, the Vulcan who salutes Zefram Cochrane is named Sokar. As mentioned in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, 1984, Sokar is the grandfather of Sarek and subsequently the great-grandfather of Spock.
The Borg Queen was created because the writers was having difficulty in writing dialogue for what was intended to be the Borg central computer.
Right. The Borg Queen never actually made an appearance in the regular series. So she was actually invented for the movie because they didn't want to continue. And there were some fans that was like, this is a huge retcon. And in a way it kind of is. But who's to say that she didn't already exist? And this is a very good retcon, and it made sense for the movie. And then after she was introduced in this movie, she was referenced every time they had the Borg. When Vulcans land on Earth and make first contact, Cochrane is unable to return the Vulcan salute. This is in reference to an old joke about Star Trek, the original series, 1966. Many fans and quite a few actors throughout Star Trek franchise cannot separate their fingers the right way. The most notable actor who cannot do this is William Shatner, Captain James T. Kirk. Mike Johansson can do the salute, but only with his left hand, even though he's right-handed. Yeah, there you go. It's like this with the thumb. The thumb, there you go. You can do it. It's actually funny because Leonard Nimoy, the man who played Mr. Spock, he has a Jewish background, and that hand gesture is part of a Jewish ceremony. So he brought that to the Star Trek franchise.
Whoopi Goldberg was not asked to return as Guinan, a character with a long-standing enmity with the Borg as shown in previous Trek projects. She's only learned about the decision through the newspaper. As she said, "What can I say? I wanted to do it because I didn't think you could do anything about the Borg without my character. But apparently you can, so they don't need me."
Yeah, it's a little sad. In the early drafts, Picard was supposed to be the one helping Zefram Cochrane on Earth, with Riker fighting the Borg on the Enterprise. The main story was also focused on the happenings on Earth. After Sir Patrick Stewart objected to that, the character of Riker and Picard were swapped. This also resulted in making Picard more of an action hero and the story more focused on the happenings on the Enterprise, which kind of makes sense because he's captain, and if your ship is in trouble, then you want to be on your ship. So that's probably
he is the one that had the experience with the Borg.
Right.
So that again makes sense for him to be fighting on his ship, trying to get it back.
Right. Yeah, that does make more sense narratively.
Earlier drafts of the script called for the U.S.S. Defiant to be destroyed in battle within the Borg. But screenwriters Ronald D. Moore objected to the needless destruction of the ship from Star Trek Deep Space Nine that came out in 1993, in a story that did not even involve the DS9 characters, apart from Lieutenant Commander Worf. This was also proved to be inconvenient for the television series, so the Defiant was eventually allowed to survive the battle.
Yeah, Ronald Moore. Remember, Deep Space Nine was his show. So he was like, hold on.
No, you're not destroying my ship.
Destroy the ship. Come on now. That's not right. We need that ship.
Not allowed.
Our ratings are good because of that ship. James Cromwell became the first Star Trek. Hold on. Let me read this correctly because I'm reading it all wrong. And my mic is blocking my view. Here we go. James Cromwell became the first actor in Star Trek history to actually utter the phrase Star Trek. Although in Star Trek The Next Generation, All Good Things, 1994, John DeLance, who played Q, said, it's time to put an end to your trek through the stars. But yeah, James Cromwell as Zephyr Conqueror, he actually says Star Trek. Do you know what that means? Or do you know when you say Star Trek?
No.
Like a trek is just another word for journey. Okay. So Star Trek just means star journey or journey through the stars or whatever. So James Cromwell says, so you're some kind of astronauts on some kind of Star Trek. And I was like, yeah, I guess you can say that.
Geordie LaForge.
Oh, beautiful. You got that name. And that's the most one of the most confusing names to read. You got that right on the first try.
Visor is replaced with ocular implants. I was wondering why he didn't have his. I was like, should he have
so you
visors?
Recognize that character.
Yeah, I was like, should he have visors? I feel like he should.
Right.
LeVar Burton lobbied for years to have his visors replaced so people could see his eyes. He always felt that this limited his acting ability. His request was finally granted here. I was like, yeah, again,
right.
that's again, his visors is iconic, but it's weird that he has visors, and it's weird that he didn't have them.
Right.
But I guess it did work for this movie because you can see his expression, you can see his happiness. It's like confusing too.
Right. It's funny, right? Because it's like super expressive when he finally got those. You can see he was so excited about getting that visor off. Because for one thing, he can barely see through it, ironically. And the other thing, it's like he's super expressive with his eyes. You can see he's acting joyously without those visors on. So they gave contacts instead. I don't know if he could see through those contacts, but he was way happy to get the visors off. Where are we?
Okay.
Oh, okay, I see it. This is the one with Michael Dorn. Michael Dorn, Brent Spiner, Gates McFadden, and Jonathan Frakes have all been quoted as saying that this was their favorite of all Star Trek movies they made. Marina Sirtis mentioned that she had the most fun filming Star Trek Generations 1994, but concedes that this movie was the best one they made.
I mean, yeah, when you look at it in whole, oh yeah, you can see why.
Right. Cochrane.
Okay, Cochrane asked LaForge, don't you people in the 24th century ever pee? This is a reference to the fact that toilets was never shown in Star Trek, the original series that came out in 1966, or Star Trek's The Next Generation that came out in 1987. Yeah, apparently not.
Right. Alice Cringe suffered much discomfort throughout this movie. Her costume was too tight, causing blisters, and the silver contacts she had to wear were so painful they could only be kept on. They can only be kept in for 4 minutes at a time. Yeah, I know, right?
One of the reasons Jonathan Frakes, that's right. Okay,
that's how I've always said it. So let's go with that.
Was chosen to direct was because the producers wanted someone who understood Star Trek. Amongst the cast, he was the series' most prolific director. Reportedly, Ridley Scott and John McTiernan turned down the chance to direct.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with John McTiernan. He might have been the dude that did Die Hard. I can't remember. But Ridley Scott, he's the one that did Aliens. So this would have been a very different movie if Ridley Scott had done it.
Different.
Right.
With a lot of retakes, because seeing how he wanted to make the movie the way he wanted it for Aliens, there was a lot of retakes.
Right. Industrial Light and Magic animators created several new classes of Federation starship for the huge CGI animation sequence against the board. Classes include the Akira, Saber, Steamrunner, and others. In addition, the Industrial Light and Magic animators had a little fun with this by placing a shot of the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars in the battle, which can be seen in several DVD versions of this movie. The scene showing this can easily be seen by going to the Star Trek fan site, Daystrom Institute Technical Library, dittl.org, and look at the sixth and last image for the Akira class starship. there just under the Akira's port nacelle, you can see the Millennium Falcon just after she made a strafing run on the Borg cube.
James Cromwell.
Cromwell.
It just looks like
this,
that.
It's CR. You see that? CRM. Crom. And then you say, well, Cromwell.
Well, I'm sorry, where my eyes makes the
You're not
accent of an
dyslexic.
M looking like an R.
You're not dyslexic.
Claimed that Zephram, Zephram, I can't remember the last name. Cochrane was the closest of any of his roles to his personality in real life.
Yeah.
So a drunk, okay.
Yeah, he's a drunk person that hates fans. That's who he is in real life. When Lily is scared almost out of her skin after seeing her first Borg drone, that was because this legitimately scared Alfre Woodard. She had never seen Star Trek The Next Generation, 1987, before filming the movie, so Woodard had no clue what the Borg drones looked like. That's nice.
Are you talking about where she met Data?
No, the drones, the Borg people.
Oh, that.
Like when she's with Picard, and she sees them for the first time.
Oh, yes, he's freaking out.
Right, she freaks out.
I thought it was talking about when they met Data and she just passes out.
No, that Data is not a Borg drone.
I know, but still.
No, not that one. It's like when she's on the ship and they turn the corner. Next thing you know, you see a bunch of drones in the hallway. That's when she's the expression on her face. That's her real reaction because she had never seen the Borg on TV before.
Tom Hanks was considered for the role of Zephram Cromwell.
Goodness gracious, we just talked about his name, and you just made one up. Zephram Cochrane.
Again, that's feel right. Being an avid fan of Star Trek, Hanks was receptive of the role, but had to pass due to his commitment to directing and starring in That Thing You Do that came out in 1996.
You know what? We might do that movie.
No.
That was a good movie, though.
No.
You remember the song?
No.
You.
No. Stop.
Doing that thing you do.
Okay, stop.
Anyway, on to the next one. The Borg makeup and suits had to be constantly touched up. Several of the Borg actors lost a considerable amount of weight while in costume due to the heat of the sets and the temperature in Los Angeles during the shoot.
I can imagine.
So that's the end of the, what do you call this? What do we call this segment?
Trivia.
Trivia. That's what it was. That's the end of the trivia. Man, I just lose words. So this movie won. They cleaned up at the Saturn Awards, at the 1990 Saturn Awards. Tell them what they won, Zach.
Best Supporting Actor, Brent Spiner. Best Supporting Actress, Alice Craig?
I think it's Craig. Yeah, let's go with that one.
Best Costume, Deborah Everton. Best Science Fiction Film. Best Actor, Patrick Stewart. Best Director, Best Writer, Best Music, Best Makeup, Best Special Effects.
It's like the only science fiction film that they put out that year because it cleaned up. And it was like, none of y'all compare. This is it. This movie is at the Saturn Awards this year. We giving it all Star Trek.
And Star Wars.
Let's talk about what the critics think. The critics gave it 92%. The professional critics, and then the audience gave it 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb reviews has it at 7.6 out of 10. It's fairly accurate. And it's weird that the critics actually liked it more than the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. That's just kind of weird, especially, Star Trek fans. So Derek Adams of Time Out, he wrote, let's make little concession to non-initiates. Oh, this makes little concession to non-initiates. So basically what he's saying is that there's people watching this film who are not Star Trek fans, who are not familiar with Star Trek, won't get a lot out of this movie because the movie does not do a lot of exposition. But I happen to disagree with him because it made so much money. So it's not, I think it actually brought in more people into the Star Trek fandom than not.
Mike Massis, Gone with the Twins. The dialogue has improved and the story elements are more in tune with the show, but there's a wealth of unrealized potential and an equal amount of undeveloped concepts.
You might be right. I sort of, kind of agree. You know what? Maybe I don't know. I don't know what he means by the dialogue improved, because it's like, did you hear the dialogue before the movie got the theatrical release? I don't know. Anyway, we get to talk about Roger Ebert. You know Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times. I'm sure that he's resting in peace. Star Trek: First Contact is one of the best of the 8 Star Trek films. Certainly the best in its technical credits and among the best in its ingenuity of his plot. You know what? He's absolutely right. Sometimes he's right. What's the next one?
Lisa, what? No. Why?
Let's see if we can puzzle this out. Schwarzbaum.
I feel like that's not right, and I feel like it's really a German name, because that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
From Entertainment Weekly. In zooming out from Picard Glightly Eyeball, this 8th featured film from the Trek Factory display a zippy new energy and a sleek, confident style fully independent of its predecessors.
Yeah, I go with that. I kind of like that. And it's glinty eyeballs. Glinty. Anyways. Yeah, so that's it for the critics. Wow, this is our longest episode yet, so we should bring it to a close. We're gonna shut this down. I'm gonna shut it down right now. Our next episode will be Batman. That's right, Batman. That Batman from the Tim Burton Batman, the first Batman film that was in the modern era. Let's put it like that. The first Batman film of the modern era. The first superhero film of the modern era. Unless you count the Christopher Reeve film, but I don't really count that. I like to think that was from the previous era. Batman, from Tim Burton, is the modern era. And once again, if you like this show, then please rate us, write a review, share it with someone. You know what? Do a hashtag #BacklookCinema on Twitter or your favorite social media site. Believe me, it matters. Be safe, hug your loved ones, and be outstanding.